All right, agenda item number 3 is Visitor Citizens Forum. We did not have anyone sign up. Moving on to agenda item number 4, employee recognition. Council, anyone? David?
We'd just like to thank our police department and our fire department and Public Works over the weekend for the windy response to trees down and so forth to keep our streets safe and our citizens safe. So it was called out a couple times throughout the weekend. So appreciate their rapid response.
All right, anything else? Go ahead, Josh.
I want to do a shout out to, I assume, David and Public Works for giving this place a glow up. Boy, it's looking nice.
That's the Public Works. I had nothing to do with it other than say, okay. But yeah, Public Works, they worked hard on this. And I think it looks a little bit better. So thanks.
All right. Number 5, employee recognition. I think we just had that along with public recognition. So we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Consider approval of council minutes. The rescheduled regular meeting January 28th and the regular meeting of February 18th, 2025. Any comments, council?
Hello. I didn't find any boo-boos on the February 18th, but I found 3 on the January 28th. I sent it to Dora. I think she might have sent them to you. I'm not sure. But page 2, 7th order of business, regarding the purchase and renovation for Medina Central Appraisal District. The vote was 3-2, not 5-0, with Alderman Gonzalez and Hernandez voting against. On page 10, the 9th order of business.
What was the first one again, please?
The first one was about the appraisal district's purchase and renovation of the building they were looking at.
Okay, since
Page 10, 9th order of business was the certificate of obligation item. At the very end of that paragraph, it said the grant will be $45,926,224. It should only be $5 million with all the same numbers, except not 45. Page 10, the 30th order of business. When we reconvened from executive session, there's nothing about no action taken in session, and that Josh had made the motion, Jeff had seconded to release the confidential information that was discussed in the executive session with the vote of 4-1. It's just not on there. I bet she was typing it and totally just missed it. And then after that is where Mr. Kate advised us to go back to a previous item regarding the contract date, effective date. So that one little paragraph needs to be put in. That's all I found. Took more time to explain it than what it really was.
Did you get all that?
The corrections were made. I made them when you sent it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. I haven't seen a revised version of the minutes.
No, because we didn't get them until, I didn't check the emails, so when I did them, when you sent them this afternoon, I was able to get them.
Yeah, I didn't send them till like
Okay.
2:30,
You send those
3 o'clock.
everyone?
Yes, I can send them.
Okay, so Tom, does this still require council action?
No, it was taken care of in the meeting. It's just between the reconvening and the note about Tom Kate, we needed this little paragraph in there.
Okay.
Can we make the motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Yes.
All right. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All right. Josh made a motion to accept the minutes as amended, second by Debbie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. on agenda item number 7. Consider an act on the City of Divine's continuation of the code compliance contract for the Devine Volunteer Fire Department. David, I'll let you lead that off, sir.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, as y'all aware, we have a contractual services agreement with the Devine Volunteer Fire Department regarding our code enforcement department. As most of you are aware, there has been a transition in fire department personnel. Met with the new interim leadership, interim chief Jessica Martinez, and the president of the fire department board, as well as the president of the ESD board. And the fire department has a desire to continue with the code enforcement contract, and they have assured me that they are still capable of completing that contract. And we have interim chief assistant Jessica Martinez here to speak on behalf of the fire department.
Okay, welcome, Jessica. Real quick, everyone, just to preface this a little bit, there has been as most of you know, there's been some controversy within the VFD and such in the ESD. And my personal position on it is that we're not doing business with an individual, we're doing business with the organization, which is the VFD. Okay, so Jessica, please represent.
So I'm Interim Chief Jessica Martinez. I've been with the department since October of 23. And so most of the time you don't see my face, I'm in the background working, so that's probably why you've never seen me here. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of an overview of what we've been doing. We divided the city into 3 separate sections, so that way each shift can cover their own section to avoid duplications of write-ups and to allow the city to be reviewed street by street. So with visual appearances of code violations, a yellow placard is filled out with the address, the date, and a brief description of any potential violations. Wide angle and full frame photos are taken of visible and accessible violations. So we take a picture of the placard with the camera, and then we go ahead and take a picture of the rest of the property, ending with the placard again, so everybody knows that everything between the 2 photos of the placard are the photos of that address given. Then if we cannot access the homeowner or anybody there at the residence, the placard is placed on the doorknob if no contact is able to be made. The firefighters on shift then document a brief narrative of what was observed along with the connected address, so that Assistant Chief DeLucia can correlate a narrative regarding the documented violations. Cases then generated into iWorks, which is the platform that we use. The photos are uploaded. Notifications of the violation letter is created and mailed to the homeowner. The owners are given 10 days to correct any violations. So 10 to 14 days after the letter is mailed, the firefighters revisit the property to see if corrections have been made. If attempted progress is achieved, we continue to work with the homeowner until all of the violations are corrected. If no real progress has been made, more photos are taken and they're placed and documented into the iWorks to keep the case up to date. So once we verify that no action has been taken, the case is then forwarded to the court and updated photos are taken a week prior. So currently we have 41 active cases and 16 of which are scheduled for court this coming week. And in doing the code enforcement, we have noticed that the volunteer fire department has identified hazard properties or target hazards. And we've been starting to do a lot more of the pre-incident planning in the city of Devine in case of any kind of emergency situations. So.
Question. So when we initially started this process of turning this over to the VFD, okay,
Yes.
our first intent, especially with regards to debris and bulk and brush and such in the city right-of-ways, along with some other things, our first intent was to try and educate the public before we hammered them, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay, because quite frankly, here in Devine, for many, many years, you know, it was very difficult to maintain a code compliance department, right? And so a lot of people, and I've asked, and they've told me, so, oh, we just always thought we could put it out anytime we want to, and all that. So I know we started that way. So may I ask, how effective did you find that to be? For example, just trying to be informative and letting everyone know. Did you get a rude response from the public, or were they mostly cooperative?
Most of them were cooperative. We like to educate the public on why certain things are considered target hazards, for regardless if it's life safety or if it's, you know, a potential fire hazard or even just a hazard in general to their home. We like to educate the public, and for the most part they were very receptive to the information. We did get some pushback from certain members of the community, but we expected that. We knew that not everybody was going to be on board, especially if they've been in the mindset of, well, this is how I've always done it and I was never told otherwise.
Right.
So the initial pushback we were kind of expecting, but for the most part, most of the community has been very receptive.
Okay, so from what I understand, with the previous chief, he and I rode around a few weeks back, and just kind of the entire city. And I asked him about every single concern I had, and I noticed that he had a printout, which is what you were talking about, of almost every one that I had mentioned. I also had a list that I had made, okay, and probably 45 of the 60 or so that I had, okay, already on that list, and so you had already made contact with a lot of those people.
Yes.
Right? So, from what I understand, even if you pay a visit and it's an informational visit, they have 10 days to comply.
Yes.
Okay, the previous chief was telling me that we really can't bother them again for another 10 days, right? And then after that is when you could get into the more forceful action, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, and then a lot of people ignore it, and then of course, and then you get the court summons, and then of course, we have municipal court every other month, so it's really kind of a drawn out process. It really makes it hard for us to enforce it, but we're going to stay with it, okay? So anyway, I personally think this is still a good way for us to go. It seems to be, I was pleased when I did the ride around, because I was rather concerned for a while, but to be honest with you.
Yes, sir.
You know, because it just seemed like it was moving so slowly. And one of the things we really want to do in the city, and the surveys that we've conducted, has been to, you know, the overall appearance of our fair town leaves a lot to be desired. And so that's something that's easy to fix, you know? So as far as these kind of things. And so anyway, so what we wanted to do, was to basically hopefully give you a vote of confidence from the council this evening. I know that Mr. Jordan has spoken with you, and you are also getting 2 other employees certified.
Yes, sir. 2 just went through the
kind of
basic code enforcement class this past
So that would give you 4 total?
3 certified, and we're going to send, they have the classes every quarter.
Right.
So once the next quarter comes up, then we'll be sending more individuals.
Okay, so right now you have 3 that are active.
Yes, and
Okay.
4 have access to the iWork system.
Okay.
5 including Miss Sophia. She's the one that handles the phone calls most of the time.
Okay, all right. Okay, council, any concerns to address?
I personally like the approach that's been taken. I feel like in talking to, and I guess Captain DeLucia is now Assistant Chief DeLucia.
Yes, in the interim.
And I've had a chance to visit with him also on my own, and I appreciate the approach being taken. And it seems like what I have seen is, you know, and hearing from him, is that you're trying to attack the worst cases first. And it also seems like there is a lot of, if they see any kind of progress, then, you know, they get a little more time to keep it going. Because some people do have an expense involved when they're trying to clean up something or fix something. And so I do think that the key is progress.
Yes, sir.
But I do like it, and I think personally we should keep everything intact, and I personally have confidence that we're going in the right direction.
Josh, go ahead, sir.
What is pre-incident planning?
So we do a survey of either a building or a property. Most of these cases are outside offenses that we're looking at, either junk vehicles or very tall grass, or those potential hazards. But when we do our pre-incident planning, we map out roadways, where are the hydrants, where are any expected problems that we may come into. For example, the winds that we had a couple of weeks ago, they were 45+ mile-an-hour winds. If that would have caught on certain streets, we knew that the bulk of the fire load was going to be intense, especially if the wind got a hold of it and certain things in certain areas caught on fire, that we would be dedicating tons of personnel and probably have to call others in to be able to get that fire under control if the winds didn't die down fast enough. So we're able to just locate those target hazards and make essentially a plan just to see how we would tackle the project.
Would it be safe for me to summarize all that in saying you're finding the tinder boxes that are just waiting for a match or a strong wind to push them over so you can maneuver around them, mitigate damage beyond them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Overall, I'm in agreement. We made a deal with the fire department, not any individuals. That being said, due to a considerable amount of constituent pressure, I'm going to ask you some tough questions here.
Yes, sir.
Please don't take them personally.
Mm-hmm.
What was your previous position within the fire department?
I was the assistant chief.
Okay. You said you've been there since 2015?
2023.
Oh, 2023. Okay. What measures have you folks put in place to mitigate some of the potentially negative behaviors that have led to some of the recent drama? What institutional changes have you made?
Are we getting a little off subject here? It's off topic.
Well, if we're going to continue giving money if we're going to maintain the deal with the organization, that is the number one thing my constituents have been quite vocal about. We should not continue doing business with an organization that has these sort of core issues.
Okay,
Again, I'm in agreement, we should maintain it, but are they taking positive steps that, yes, we're addressing issues that may or may not have existed, and we don't know that anything exists yet. Nothing has been proven.
I just think this is the wrong time to try to open that discussion. She's here for that, and she's here for, the compliance issues, and I feel like that's a personnel issue, and that's a whole other board and everything else is to deal with.
Well, the biggest thing is that everything's ongoing now, right now. It hasn't been settled, they haven't, so I think we might want to wait till there's some kind of conclusions. We can always revisit it at any time.
One person's bad
Okay.
decision shouldn't affect the innocent.
I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yeah.
It shouldn't affect the innocent. I mean, they're doing their job. They didn't know
So
what was
for
going on.
right now, all we need to, I just want to have a vote of confidence, hopefully, or not confidence, a vote, with regards to code compliance, okay? Because we hired them, we have a contract with them. The contract is not with the person, it's with the VFD. So that's the purpose of this agenda item. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, I too have talked to a lot of constituents, and here's the list. I'm gonna just read it, take it at the value of this is what our residents are thinking. And not everybody that I talk to is in District 5, because people just call me, sorry. Probably a good 90% of the people that I spoke with feel we should cancel the contract, mainly due to the financial mismanagement of their money. I realize that it's not the people that are in the VFD right now. Our residents are very concerned about it, and that if they're mismanaging the money, what else are they not doing properly, and that the city should not be condoning money mismanagement. The next thing was, after 8 months, they only have one certified person, but now we know there's 3 as of last week. It's taken 8 months to get to that point. The next one was, they feel that VFD's done a lot of poor decisions. The next one was VFD doesn't keep up with their equipment maintenance as required by the ESD contract, but they're supposed to be telling citizens what to do. And they don't feel that's right. And after 8 months, the town looks just as dirty and grubby as it did before they took over. So there really hasn't been a difference. They don't know why we're spending the money on that. And they also feel VFD should be focusing on their own internal affairs and winning back the trust of the taxpayers and the citizens. And that the city should just step back up to the plate and take control of it. Take it back.
Make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Hang on a second, please. Ray, go ahead, sir.
No, I was gonna make a motion, we table this and bring it back once we have a little bit more information and things settle down, because it is a concern. I mean, most of the constituents did say same things to me that they did to Devin, so I understand that, but this is an item that needs to be tabled and brought back later for further discussion.
Okay. That's not a bad idea. Okay, however, I will say this much, when we talk about money management and so forth and so on, we pay them a certain amount to do what we need them to do. If they do not do that, then we can cancel the contract. Okay, so that's my approach.
Well, and we already heard the stats. I mean, it's not like, and I think we had an agreement up front of that they were allowed so many months to get onboarding and get things going. And I think it's kind of, you know, not having a lot of faith. I realize that a lot of people are going to jump on this because you know why? They don't want code compliance. Let's just be honest. They've heard stories, you know, somebody, so-and-so, they're picking on them, they're doing this, and you know, it's always the same thing. It's like, and I feel like the fire department, when they did this, they got put in a very awkward position because it hadn't been taken care of for a very long time. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure people would like to find any reason to make it stop. Let's just be honest. Nobody wants to be held accountable. And I don't have a problem with just isolating this. I don't think it has anything to do with their financials. Personally, I feel like that's up to their board to handle and clarify and take care of. That's their issue. And I think they're doing that. I think the light's been turned on. We've had, you know, every organization can have issues, but it doesn't mean that, you know, we need to like do something radical as being suggested that, well, we can't do business with them because, you know, they had this other issue. I just don't personally see it, but that's just me.
I would like to remind everyone, okay, I rode with the previous chief and I investigated everything and remember I went in kind of angry on that because I didn't feel like it was getting done the way it needed to be done. And then after I became a little bit more enlightened because things move slowly, all right? Especially you know, bureaucracy and such, and this moves slowly. Once again, we only have a municipal judge every other month. Okay, by the way, we also have a meeting Thursday morning with the powers that be on that end. Okay, so I just want to point that out again, and I will entertain a motion, whatever it may be.
Doris got something for you.
Before y'all motion, the only thing that we need is clarification to pay them, because in July, what y'all did was y'all amended the contract to pay them the $110,000 because they were going to be taking code enforcement. Originally, they just had the inspections, but they're not doing inspections anymore. So we just need to know, are we continuing paying the $110? Because we've got 2 invoices that we need to pay them. And we don't know, are y'all staying at the $110 now that they're not doing inspections, or is that gonna change?
I thought they were separate contracts.
We've already crossed that bridge because, no, paid through the fees. Yeah, the 110 is code compliance.
It's code compliance only.
Yeah. So yes, we should continue, and we should pay their invoices, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we would, we've definitely clarified that a lot. I don't know if that needs to be in this motion. Are you saying that we have to say that, Tom? Or are you saying that we have to add that into the motion? Or is that a request to for further clarification?
Only that was a request for clarification, I think.
We've clarified that amply. I'd like to not reopen that can of worms.
We already crossed that one.
Okay, can you move on? Like I said, I'll entertain a motion, if not, everything move.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue to pay that. Oh,
Ray made a
We just had a
motion.
motion on the floor.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were talking about it.
No, I said we should put a motion in for.
Okay, then you need to make the formal motion, please.
I want to put a motion to table this, bring it back another time to discuss this a little bit more in depth.
Okay. All right, we have a motion from Ray to table this agenda item until further notice. We have a second from Josh. Anything further? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 3-2. Jeff and Debbie opposed. So the current contract remains in place until further notice.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll bring it back after, when we find a time that seems appropriate.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank y'all
you
for
so
your
much.
time.
Agenda item number 8, presentation of a salary survey. David Jordan and Mr. Robert Culpepper. David?
Mayor and Council, as y'all aware, y'all approved in the last budget to allow us to do a salary survey. So that's what we have done, and we have the results. Mr. Culpepper is going to be the presenter from the DER HR group. He's online here on the Zoom. Go ahead, Mr. Culpepper, can you hear me?
Mr. Culver, can you hear us? Yes, I can, thank you. That was loud and clear, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Culpepper, with your presentation.
Go ahead, Robert, what's your presentation?
Okay, so I believe that the slide deck is being shown to you. First slide. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Slide 1. Thank you very much, David, Dora. It's been a pleasure working with you on this salary study that we started last fall, and it just wrapped up here a couple of days ago. I'm Robert Culpepper. I'm with the JDR HR group. We've been doing this type of work for decades with cities and counties all over the country. And let's go without any further delay. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide and talk about what we did. This classification and compensation study focus was on maintaining a compensation system that provides fair and equitable pay based on two things: internal equity, that's how the jobs relate to one another inside the organization,
Based
and
on what?
external pay, which is a market pay, see how
Yeah.
similar cities and counties, similar types of organizations, comparable organizations. The goal is to maintain a compensation plan that's aligned and supports the goals of the city, which would be obviously talent attraction and retention. Okay, so going to slide 3. Phase 1 of the study involved getting to know the jobs in the city of Devine, and we did that by starting out with the job descriptions that were available, and we fed it into our system called Comp Builder. Comp Builder allowed us to review and edit the job description information for accuracy and relevancy, get it up to date, make sure we have a complete picture of what each job is supposed to do. And then that resulted in what we call a job profile, which we used to do the job evaluation. Well, job evaluation is the measure of internal equity. We rated the 24 positions utilizing 15 compensable factors that are part of what's called JSAP, Job Evaluation and Salary Administration Program. It's our proprietary job evaluation methodology. At that first pass, we had to go back and look at it again to make sure that we didn't make any mistakes. Had to do some calibration, or what I like to call sore thumb. Anything stuck out or didn't line up the way we thought it should, we went back, reconsidered all 15 factors, top to bottom, throughout the city's organization, and made adjustments to those job evaluation ratings. And by the way, when we say job evaluation, we're talking about the content of the job. It has nothing to do with the person in the job. We're trying to measure the jobs. So let's go on to slide 4. Now, what are those 15 factors, as you should be seeing right now? The 15 factors are broken down into 4 main categories: knowledge and skill requirements, such as education, experience, initiative, ingenuity, mental demand, and analytical ability. Then there's responsibilities. That has to do with supervision responsibilities for funds and equipment and property, accuracy and accountabilities. Contacts and human relations, I would call that communication. Contacts with the public, contacts with employees. And finally, ethics, which is what kind of machines and computers do you operate? What kind of software do you use in your job? What are the working conditions and the hazards associated with that job, and the physical demands of the job. All those things are rated on a proprietary scale that delivers a job evaluation score, which you will see on the next slide, slide 5. Slide 5 shows you the results of that job evaluation study. We rated all 15 factors, and 2 of the factors have 3 sub-factors, so there's 19 buttons. It's like a 19-band equalizer to adjust to get the jobs lined up where they should be in the job hierarchy. On the right side, you see the JSAT value. That's the overall job evaluation score. So, of course, the city administrator is the highest job evaluation score, and then it goes down from there, as one would expect, as the responsibilities change as you go through the organization. So you have a hierarchy of jobs that sets a framework for the internal equity piece inside the organization, the city. Now, what we do is we take that information and look at how it relates to the pay that people are receiving in those jobs. So let's go to slide 6. Slide 6 is showing us a scattergram of the job values that we saw on the previous page and the pay associated with the people in those jobs. As you would expect, the higher the responsibility, the more pay the individual receives, more or less. This is a high correlation. It's above 80%, or 0.8 correlation. For you statistics buffs out there, it's Pearson's R correlation coefficient. And you see that most of the jobs follow along that line. So it's a nice little cigar-shaped distribution. Now, there's a few dots on the outside. Those are outliers. Those are people that are paid outside of the norm. And keep that in mind, because that comes into play when we're looking at the statistical analysis of the market study related to the 2 jobs further on in the presentation. So let's go with slide 6. So we did that part. We did the measure of the job evaluations and looked at how it related to the score. So we set a line, and that line tells you where you currently are. And then we're going to do the market study, which tells us how much do you need to move that line to bring it close to where the market is. So what we did on slide 7 is you'll see phase 2, that's the market pay and benefits study. We completed a market study of 10 similar organizations, all cities and counties that were believed to be good comparators for the city of Devine. And we also threw in an aggregated third-party salary source that measures the market of hundreds of employers in the area based on a statistical procedure that the salary aggregator uses to determine what that market is for jobs, both public and private, in the area. So we have that in the mix as well. So we asked me to match it to the salary.com thing, but we also had the cities tell us what they paid for comparable jobs of the 24 jobs, the 24 positions in the city. And what we did was, once we received that data, I analyzed it and made sure that we only kept good matches. If something looked out of whack, we didn't use it. If it was a bad match, or if it was an outlier that was skewing the data unusually, we threw it out. So we data cleansed and got a nice measure of central tendency of what the market's doing. So let's look at the results of that on the next slide, slide 8. As you can see, that some cities and counties were paying more, and some were paying less. If it's a negative number, that means the city of Devine is behind, is paying less than them. And if it's a positive number, the city of Devine is paying more than them, the comparators. As you can see, city of Devine is right in the middle of the pack. It's competitive. It looks very good. So we didn't have to move that salary line very much to create a salary structure. So let's go on to the next slide to look at the overall. Well, what does that look like overall when you average it all out and pick the middle number and get the median as well? So the average of those, that variance was positive 3.0. So 3.99 to be exact. If you get the full report, it's 2.99, but we rounded up to 3.0. So at 3.0 above, we would take the mean or the average, but it's a negative 1.8 when you pick the middle number, the median. And that's a good thing because sometimes you have some salaries like those outliers we saw on the scatter graph that kind of skew the average comparison. So it looks better when you have the outliers in there. When you take the outliers out and just pick the middle number, it doesn't look so good. But this looks really good. Negative 1.8, just being 1.8 slightly below the market median is not a bad thing. And it's a good position to have. So we only have to do a minor adjustment. There's not a whole lot of, there's not going to be a big ask when it comes to funds for salary corrections. So that's good news. We fixed the median and worked off of that. So let's go to slide 10. And the third phase of the project is what we call the compensation administration plan. We took all that information, we analyzed it, and we came up with some conclusions on what should be done. We looked at all the 38.5 FTEs, that's 38 full-timers and 1 part-timer, along with the compensation data, see where everybody was falling. And I reviewed this information with Dora and David and made sure that we had accurate matches from the surveys. We also made sure that the job evaluation points were accurate and reflected the proper hierarchy for the jobs. And then, of course, I did my analysis, put together the report, and I'm talking to you about it here today. Let's go on to the pay range itself. I'm going to get a drink of water here. By the way, how's my audio so far? Is everybody hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So here's the pay ranges. The pay, like I said before, you had that salary line, and we took that line and adjusted it slightly for a central tendency to figure out where the pay range midpoint should be. So we moved that line up slightly, and then calculated a midpoint based on doing a regression to determine what that midpoint should be. And that's how we created the midpoints. Either side of the midpoint is a minimum and a maximum. Think of it as the white lines on the side of the road, where the road ends and the shoulder begins. That's your minimum and maximum. That's the area that you got to play with. Minimum is 80% of the midpoint, and maximum is 120% of the midpoint. It's a 50% spread. So when it comes to pay ranges, we talk about minimum, midpoint, and maximum. So that's the pay range that's available for those jobs, based on this analysis. Now, where do people fall in those ranges? Well, if we go to slide 12, you'll see a good result. 59% of the employees are in the middle of the pay range, right around the midpoint, with about 41% in the second quartile. If you break it into quarters, let's say it's a 4-lane highway, and the midpoint is the double yellow line. You got 2 lanes on one side, and going one direction, and 2 lanes on the other side going the other direction. So you have people that are on the shoulder, and they're below minimum. That's 3 people. You have people on the other shoulder, and they're highly paid, and their salaries fall outside of the range that we set. And that's only 3 people, but the vast majority of employees are in the competitive area. That market midpoint represents the competitive median for the market, and everybody's clustered around there. So there's not a whole lot of adjusting that needs to be done to people's salaries. And let's go ahead and go to slide 13 and talk about the overall recommendations based on this study. First thing you said was, okay, we drew this salary line, and we recommend that you adopt the pay ranges that you saw earlier to give you a competitive pay range structure. Now, overall, like I said before, most employees are clustered around that pay range midpoint, and that's a good thing. So, first of all, first things first, if you're below minimum, you're outside of the policy. So you need to bring those employees up to at least the minimum, if not a little higher. And then whatever else you do with your funds, however you apply that, be sure to apply it on a case-by-case basis. Some people might need more than others to bring them along in the salary range, to put them where they belong based on their tenure, their performance, whatever's going on with them. You can do what you need to do, that's whatever's deemed necessary. And we also, as part of our salary study, we asked the comparator cities and counties what they planned on doing for pay increases for the upcoming fiscal year. And the ones that did give us that information, not everybody had anything to say about it, but those that did, the average was about a 3% adjustment to the pay structure, the pay ranges, and an average of 4% was being planned for an increase to the base pay for fiscal year 2026 coming up here in October for all of it. So my recommendation is plan on a 3 to 4% pay increase to maintain your competitiveness, both to the pay, to individual pay, or at least a pool of money for pay increases, and also an adjustment to the pay range, to move the pay range up to go along with, to keep pace. And that's all I have for you. That's the outcome of the study. Things are looking really good, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you can direct them to Dora. Dora can relay them to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I have several. I have several. By the way, I'm Mayor Cook. Thanks for joining us. I noticed in your the market comparison, there's counties on here: Atascosa, Medina, Frio, and then I noticed there weren't as many comparisons made between the counties and the cities. Where is that page? Page 8. Anyway, so my first thought is county budgets are extremely high compared to city budgets, number one. But you still think that's a good comparison, I guess, because we compete with counties for employees and such? Would that be the reason?
Robert, did you hear that?
I couldn't make that one.
Oh, that's because the speakers are pointing away from the phone. Okay. Gotcha. All right, sir, can you hear me? Okay, my first concern was, in your comparisons, right, in entities that you compared, there's Atascosa County, Medina County, and Frio County. And then I also noticed that there weren't as many positions compared on those. For example, basically half of what the cities were. Like Atascosa County, there was nine comparisons, Medina County 8. And then, so counties have a much higher budget than cities do. So I'm trying to understand where this is completely relative, unless it's because we compete with them for human resources.
Yeah, it's the talent market as opposed to how deep their pockets are, and really their comparisons were very few, and it didn't have a lot of impact on whether we left it. And that was one of the things I thought about when I was doing this. Is I said, well, I can take the counties out. What does that do to the analysis? Because there were very few matches, and that concerned me. But I took them in and I took them out, and it didn't change the average or the median all that much. So I thought, well, we surveyed them, they gave us some data, it's useful to have, so I went ahead and left them in. And it didn't have a huge impact one way or another on the outcome of the variance for the overall average variance for Devine versus the competitors.
Okay, I got you. Well, that's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to make sure. And then, of course, some of these cities like Hondo, Floresville, Pearsall have much higher budgets than we do too. Also, however, we still compete with them for human resources. So, okay, the next one on page 11. Okay, we have the maximum recommended salaries. Okay, and now I assume that the two biggest comparisons to me would be relative to the city budgets, number one, and then of course experience and qualifications to determine the maximum policy pay range. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Where should someone be relative to with an individual's qualifications?
Yes, sir.
Or should they be in the pay range? Okay.
Right.
But, what we typically see with pay range is both, longevity and qualifications. A person who is minimally qualified and or relatively new to the job should be somewhere closer to the minimum, between minimum and midpoint somewhere, typically. So we see. In most cases, there are some exceptions where there's a supply and demand issue that drives that causes wage inflation for certain types of hot positions that are hard to fill. But generally speaking, you start out in the minimum. A person who is has moderate tenure with the city and is fully qualified, but he should be paid at the midpoint, if not slightly higher. And someone who's been in the job a long time and is highly qualified and a high performer, and that's another thing. Performance does have an impact on how fast you move through the job, through the pay ranges. Would be closer to that midpoint maximum, or that halfway point where the third quartile ends or the fourth quartile begins. I call it the mid-max. So yeah, you'd have high performers and long-time employees and highly qualified people will tend to be on that half of the pay range.
I got you. Okay. Do you ever reach a point where a position is just only worth so much, period?
There's a point where, based on the market data and the evaluation of the job internally, you run out of road. And in those cases, you've got a couple of options. One way we would reconsider the content of the job. Has the job changed significantly, and do we need to reevaluate it? When a job gets more responsibility, or is more difficult, or it has more intensity to it, and it increases those 15 factors, you can get a higher score, and that score will cause the midpoint to increase. And that's one way that it can be corrected. The other is, if we go out to the market and find out, hey, this job really is hard to fill, our competitors are paying our maximum or more for that job. In this extreme case, that it does happen sometimes. You just have to just punt and say, look, the pay range is irrelevant. The market is driving us to pay a lot for this position, and you have to just ignore the range. That happens very rarely. Usually, one of those two things, we could say the market data needs to be applied differently, or the job needs to be reevaluated to a higher point value to accommodate for it. So there are situations where, let's say a person, on the other end of the stick, if an individual is in that job and they're doing the evaluation is correct and the market data is correct, then you could say, yeah, they're paid as much as that job is worth. But I always go back to, is that really the case? Are they really doing more than what maybe we need to reevaluate that job again. There may be something to it. I do want to mention that there are some jobs that you see on here that wear a lot of hats, and those jobs did not match very well to the middle, the middle salary or the midpoint of the ranges in those other cities, because they didn't have a job that had all that responsibility. So I had to, I kept that in consideration when I was picking the matches to the market data. So we try to capture the worth of the job as it stands in City of Devine based on the data that they were getting from the other competitors.
Okay. All right, I understand. Well said. Then I think the most glaring that I've seen would be, I think it's great that we are in the mid-range of all this, just like you said. Now we have 3 positions under the minimum and 3 positions over the maximum. Can you expand on what those are, the positions?
Let's see, we have, I don't recall all of them off the top of my head, but we do have, of course, the City Secretary / Election Administration, Department Head, HR, Pension Administrator is one that is above max. And that, of course, that's Dora. She's been with the city for a long time.
40 years.
Has worked as an interim city administrator from time to time. And in those situations, we know that you just can't. You can put a structure in, and there's just these certain special cases that just don't fit in the box.
Sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
for
not. And here's the thing about it: it's not to say that they're overpaid. It's to say that in the case of that individual's career trajectory, they're just an outlier based on their career path and where they've gone over the years.
Well,
And I don't see her as being overpaid. It's just that she falls outside of the standard that we've set.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep this.
It's not an indication that she's making too much money.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get down into the weeds on that. I'm just trying to find out where we might be high. And my larger concern would be, where are we under the minimum?
We had some, I think there was one part-timer, library aide that felt, like making $10.50 an hour that fell outside the range based on the data that we had.
But it is
But that was just a special case, and I think there was
Okay.
another individual that, I apologize that I'm not prepared for this. I can look this stuff up, but yeah, it's a very few cases, and it's not anything where there's an issue. It's just, we can look at that on a case-by-case basis and see what's going on and see if there needs to be either it's something with the job, but it may just be that individual is new.
Okay, no worries.
They have to fall outside the range when we set the ranges up.
Yeah, just so you know, we didn't get this info until this evening, so we can, obviously, I'm sure some other folks on this panel have some questions to ask you, so I'll turn it over to any of them if they're interested at this time. So that answers my concerns. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I was able to catch about 40% of that. Is this written down anywhere beyond these slides that don't fit on the page?
I don't think you can hear you, Josh, without talking to your phone.
I was only able to catch about 40% of your briefing. Is this written down anywhere that I can read over it later?
Yes. I think there's a printout of the slide deck that I presented, and there's also the cover report and the exhibits from the actual study itself. So everything should be available to you.
Is there a notes section in your slides? Because I see the PDF here.
Yeah, there's no note section, and it's a PDF, and there's no note section. But there's a cover report that explains things in great detail in the actual the full report, and it'll explain everything that I went over.
Yes, ma'am. We got the information later on this afternoon, so we're going to be having requesting a special meeting on next week for another item. And if y'all want to review this and digest it and write down your questions, Mr. Culpepper said he'd make himself available to answer those questions and at that time and further information.
If we're gonna, I'd love to have this on a special meeting agenda. Could we make sure we have some better communications technology to more effectively communicate?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys, so I presume you can take some time to ponder this information, ask some questions, and write down your concerns. And then hopefully we have that special meeting next Tuesday to bring this back. Okay, anything else? Mr. Culpepper, you have it, if you can hear me, you have anything else, sir?
Do you have anything else to say, Robert?
That's all. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure working with David and Dora, and I hope everything goes well for you, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That item does not require a motion of any sort, so we'll move on to agenda item number 9, presentation from TechStot. And I believe we have a couple of representatives here. It's good seeing you guys again. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for the.
You might need to raise it up a little bit, get it more towards you. The top button down, the top part of the button down.
Hello. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, sorry.
I'm not used to this. Thank you so much for the invitation to come tonight. We have a PowerPoint, and then we printed out a slideshow for each of you as well. I'm Frances Marechka. I'm the area engineer for Medina County. This is Jules Zinsmeyer. He is one of our engineers in our office as well, so I invited him as protection.
He's a big guy.
Actually, he's the brains. So, on slide 2, we have a campaign through TxDOT that's called In the Street. What the streak that we're trying to end is deaths on Texas roadways. So that doesn't just include TxDOT roadways or state roadways, interstate. It includes all roadways throughout Texas. So some of the ways that, actually, the last day that we did not have a death on Texas roadways was November 7th of 2000. So we've been over 24 years that we have not been able to accomplish that again. So we've made it our main campaign that we're pushing right now. Some ways to help in the street are to drive safe speeds, buckle up. Actually, it's crazy, but that's still one of the top things that helps fatalities happen, is not buckling up. Move over, slow down, so non-aggressive driving, get a sober ride, and avoid distractions. So we were asked to present on projects in the Devine area. So we have a few slides. The next one is our current project that is on FM 2200. We were able to do some rehab for a few miles. We replaced the bridge at Francisco Perez Creek, and we also were able to rehab the pavement in front of the school, add a turn lane, and then put some sidewalks in all the way over to 173. So I think that project was a great project for this community, especially to help incorporate the school safety in that area.
It's so good people don't know how to use a turning lane in front of the school.
I'm sorry. You can lead a horse to water, right? So the next sheet is projects that we have coming up. So the first one is on 35 here, just outside of town at Chacon Creek. We're going to be replacing the bridges both northbound and southbound. That project led a few months ago, and we're actually scheduled for a pre-con later this month. We can invite Mr. Jordan and Mr. Cook if they would like to attend as well for that pre-con, and hopefully they'll get started maybe in April or May at the latest, we're hoping. The next project that we have, well, on that same sheet, sorry, is also on 35. It's scheduled to let in September of this year. And it's really just a safety project to fill in the gaps of all the rumble strips, center line, inside and outside shoulders on 35, so not center line, on 35. But to get those rumble strips back in so that it helps increase safety. When you tend to veer off one way or the other, it wakes you up and puts you back in your lane. So that starts up at the Atascosa County line, and it goes down to County Road 7611. And the next project we're excited about, we have it scheduled as a rehab. It's right here on 173, starting at 132 and going to 35. It's scheduled for a rehabilitation. So that would be like we take everything out and we put back a new pavement structure. We want to look at the existing roadway and see it. A lot of it looks pretty good. We'd like to reduce that to like a mill and fill so that we can add some pedestrian elements and sidewalks through that area to get out towards the
That's what I was going to ask. Is there going to be sidewalks? Because that's really a missing element along that stretch.
Yes, and that's our goal. Currently, it's not in the scope, but we've asked for it, and that's what we're going to push for.
Cool.
We've had a previous meeting, and that was one of the things that we were really asking about, so hopefully they can make it happen.
If it remains out of scope, could you at least maybe what's stuff you grind up off the roads, filings or whatever? Is there any way to put that on, especially up there by Walmart? I've seen a number of wheelchairs and disabled people having to drive on the street. If we just widen out something for them to drive on the sides of the street, again, if sidewalks probably out of scope.
So sidewalks are ADA compliant, right? And so they require certain inspections through the Department of Licensing and Regulations, so
Yeah.
that would probably not fly with them.
It wouldn't be sidewalks, but if we were to have extra,
A path, right?
well, seriously, I mean, there's a wheelchair that's motorized going down the middle of the street there
Yeah,
the other
that's
night.
why I say
It's a highway.
Yes, sir. So that's our goal. Since we're talking sidewalks, there are other avenues. I'm not sure that we've had one from Devine in the past, but and I think it's too late for this year, but every other year they have they call it transportation alternatives. And it's a way that the state pays, I believe it's 80%, and the city would pay 20%. And you put together kind of your scope of where you'd like to see those sidewalks go in. And then usually you have to vote on it because you're spending money, the 20%. It doesn't guarantee that you're getting the sidewalk project selected. Lytle has actually had a couple of them selected. But also I've had other communities that they've applied for them. They're a good project, but they didn't get selected, and TxDOT ended up picking those up. And then, not to say that you're being a loser is a good thing, but TxDOT pays 100% on those. So,
Do you know why, for example, some get selected, some don't?
so we call them clean projects, and clean projects are projects that don't have utility issues. They don't have a lot of conflicts within those limits. So that would, it might be a little bit more difficult, but it's a great project for connectivity because you do have so many businesses out by 35, and then the downtown area is separated. That would be a great opportunity, and you just kind of have to sell it. Unfortunately, the gaps or the groupings are kind of odd. It's like really small, and then it goes from small to really big. So that is usually where most of our communities fall, but we have had a few that have been selected, so.
Well, we're gonna continue to bother you.
Good.
Because one of the issues that happens along this corridor is we've had a lot more truck traffic with the oil business, and, there's no place for pedestrians or bike riders
Yeah.
also. And with the increased truck traffic, it makes it more dangerous for them. They obviously don't stop as fast as, but, it's dangerous. I know I've had to really be careful a few times with some bicycles that are out in the road a little bit, and you can barely make it through there, and it's tough.
Yes, sir. And I think our new design guidelines are actually putting in a 10-foot, we call them a shared use path, so it can be bicycle or pedestrian.
Awesome.
Those are more what we're leaning towards in our new projects.
Cool.
Okay.
So the next page is seal coat projects. So seal coat projects, he's gonna hit me, but it's where you put like a layer of oil and then you cover it with rock. So it's a preventative maintenance for us. He's the guru. So so it helps preventative maintenance. It helps put a moisture barrier so that the water can't penetrate into the pavement. So it helps us keep that road going a little bit longer. So we have FM 1343 from 173 to 90. We have 173 from 35 to the Frio County line. We have 3176 from Watson Avenue to the Frio County line. And then we also have the 35 frontage roads in the Natalia area.
So what about, maybe I'm just reading this wrong, but what about the 173 from Devine to Hondo?
So I didn't want to actually put that on paper yet.
Because that's a bad road.
So we do have plans for it to be rehabbed. Unfortunately, the amount of money that it will take, I think we only get from US 90 to Black Creek is the first segment. It's not quite official yet, but Medina County has, they're trying to get into the Alamo area NPO. So by doing that, that opens more categories of funding. So we've put in that as one of our, actually the main, for Medina County, the main project on the call. So we actually, if we do that and get selected, it'll add passing lanes. It'll add a two-way left turn lane in some areas, and then passing lanes whenever we're not in an intersection.
I think the traffic justifies it.
Sir, I promise you, we push for this project every day.
Yeah, and it's bad. I mean, the shoulders aren't wide enough. The whole thing is out of date, max maximum.
and, you know, the good thing is it hasn't rained, the bad thing is it hasn't rained, but when it rains, then we have more failures,
Oh, yeah.
because the water gets in and makes
Sure.
it worse, so.
Yep.
So the last page we have here, we've been working on a corridor study along I-35 from Bear County to LaSalle County. So all the way through, you know, we were hearing new lanes on bridges, different things along that way, that line. So the ultimate 35 will probably have 3 lanes all the way from Laredo to San Antonio.
Both ways.
Yes, correct. And then there may be some locations where we add overpasses, there may be some places where we have overpasses that we end up putting 35 over the current road, building a new road underneath. So that's kind of what they were looking at with that corridor study. Also, continuous frontage roads all the way. So when that happens, you know, I know like Lytle, they're used to 2-way frontage roads. So when we say 1-way frontage roads, it kind of scares people. But we were building them so that, in Lytle, we built them so that they could be converted to 1-way, 2-lane roads instead of the 2-way. So that just means we have different radiuses and different ability for turning movement.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for all that, but since you're here, I know you knew this was coming.
Yes.
But anyway.
Cold until I came up here.
Yeah. First question for me is, I've seen a lot, the last time we spoke, okay, we had some concerns, and I think one of them y'all pretty much addressed already, just want to double check on it. Over there by Food King and the bank and all that, where Dipper Road comes in, and then it turns into Colonial Parkway, all right? It seems like the drainage has been taken care of.
So we are about 80% done there. So there's a lot of utilities there, which kind of made it hard to be able to cut the ditch. Our maintenance guys have cut the ditch. We're waiting for the utility or the signal contractor to come back in, and they're gonna build a concrete flume to help expedite the water getting out of that.
Okay, I noticed they took it seems like they have more slope, they have kind of like a canal type, you know, to carry water. We just haven't had any rain to find out. You know, I've been waiting.
Yes.
One of the problems I see there is that even if that
There's a
drainage
little ridge,
works,
there's a little hump.
well, there's a little bit of an incline coming out of there. So my thinking is it's not gonna go very far because it's not, because it's just gonna come right back and that's still gonna be flooded.
So it has improved after the last rain, so we're not getting quite as much water puddle in there. But to those points there, is there any potential to smooth that out a little bit? I may or may not drive across that every single day to and from work.
The ditch or the intersection?
Same. The ditch that is the intersection. I just come up to Ingram there.
Okay, so probably not, just because it will then raise the flow line and it'll make water ponds somewhere else.
Well, there's a
Check those valves
drain at
on
the
the
bottom
Take a
of,
look at it.
there's a drain at the bottom underneath the railroad trestle. Where
Oh,
we
I'm
go.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my thing is the water's not gonna make it that far, because there is a little bit of an incline and then it goes down. And right behind that intersection, I saw where it was dug out, but are you saying there's gonna be like some concrete work done there?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm afraid the first rain we have, all that dirt just gonna, it's just
Yeah,
gonna
and
fall.
it looks pretty sandy too, so I'm a little nervous about that as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mess, yeah.
And then we'll have another hump back there. But we'll definitely look at that, and we need to get that concrete flume in so that we can finish fixing it and making it drain.
Okay, and then the last time we spoke also, we were talking about the traffic lights up by 173 and 35. I think you mentioned there was a concern there that it needed to be reevaluated. I think you still drive home that way every day?
Yes,
So and especially now with all the tractor, the big trucks and so forth that are there. Like I said, sometimes it seems like you wait there forever and there's no traffic anywhere else.
So at 35 and 173, those are timed because it's a 4-way intersection. So
Right.
you kind of have to wait to take your turn
It's
on
just
that
the way
one.
it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The one at Walmart, I don't remember the street name,
Oak Hill.
Oak Ridge.
Oak Hill?
Oak Hill, what?
Oak Hill.
One of those.
Hill.
We're all at the same place, right?
Yeah.
So that one I would like to look into a little bit more still as well. We actually were in Devine last night on a night ride, so we actually drove down 3176 last night looking at signs, pavement markings, and then we also did 2200. So we went a lot of places. Those were the two roads I went. So we are looking into that light to see, because it looks like it's timed, and we sat there with no one at any other leg, and it was still red. So I do want to look at that one.
Okay, and then
3176?
That's
that'll
at
be
Walmart.
Pawn shop where it comes out.
No,
No, 3176 is the road that goes to Bigfoot.
Yes, sir.
So are we trying to consider putting traffic light there instead of the blinking light?
Yes.
Yeah, because it seems reasonable, because we got one at Windy Knoll, and there's less traffic there than there is, and there's more traffic in the big, you see what I'm saying? It's like they need to be swapped.
But you're talking about in front of the pawn shop?
No, well, 3176
Oh, around the
in
other
front of
way.
the pawn, yeah, in front of the pawn shop, that one needs a traffic light, where everybody has their turn. You have one at Windy Knoll, and there's less traffic going to the right or to the left towards the funeral home. You see what I'm saying?
That light is
Oh.
wonderful though.
But then,
I think it's the people
you
coming
give
off
everybody
Windy
the
Knoll
option
up to
to
173.
stop and go. Over here, you got the caution light, you wanna take a left or right, going south or north, it's impossible. I follow my son on a school bus because I wanted to see how the traffic is, because they don't stop for school buses. That sign, that door rolls open. And plus, I'm hoping that the state can put a bus stop sign on 3176 by the bridge. I followed it on Watson, where y'all getting ready to start y'all's project, and their bus stops makes 2 stops. And there's no sign there, and of course, the traffic don't stop, but that has nothing to do with y'all, okay? So I followed them to 3176 at 173, and it took almost 8 to 9 minutes for that bus to take a ride. You see, because the traffic at school's out, and then you got traffic, then you got the 18-wheelers coming in, just like you said, the oil fields. Those guys can't stop, you know? So I think it's feasible to put a traffic light there for the safety of this whole community, everybody that lives out in Bigfoot that comes this way.
My only question is, and you can probably answer this really easy, is there enough space between that intersection and the railroad track that we're not gonna back up to where people are gonna get trapped in there?
No, you would put your safety lines like you do right here. You know how when you're gonna take a right or left, there's always people that move all the way up, so anybody wants to take that left up here, going east, you know, they don't give you that much turning radius. So if you put that barrier line further back, I think it'll be fine.
So to answer your question, this has been a hot topic for us because the mayor asked for that signal there, so we had it studied. And it does warrant. The issue is, we call it preemption with the railroad. So you have to put sensors on the railroad tracks so that it lets the light know to stop people or what have you. And so there is enough space there that we don't actually need it. But as an engineer, do I want to put my name on the line that says, no, we don't need it, and then somebody dies there because we didn't have preemption and then change
Well,
the
yeah,
light?
because my issue then is, again, the truck traffic has increased, and if they take up a lot more space and you're trying to stack in people and stopping, you know, I wouldn't want to be the person on the end of that line, you know, right at the edge and have to run and get out of my, I mean, obviously you shouldn't park on a railroad track. I mean, most people have that common sense, but you and I both know that's not always the case.
So David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're working on getting the changes requested, so UP stops honking the horn, and then we have to put in the ballards and whatnot. Would that stuff all work together, or would that make it more difficult?
They have nothing to do with that.
Well, they do have to do stuff based on the train signals and whatnot. Preemption.
So also, it's very expensive, so in addition to the light, it's about $1 million we have to find money for.
Government.
Expensive street light.
I'd say
It's just a,
something else.
So that's where we are with that right now. It does warrant, but we're trying to figure out, where we can find funding for the preemption.
Okay, I got a couple other
If the
concerns.
city wants to partner with us, we will more than be happy
Yeah,
to discuss that.
I have a few other concerns, but I'll send them to you in email. Yeah, it's nothing major.
I got one more thing you might want to look at. East and west, okay?
What road are we on?
Live Oak. Anybody that's going, are we okay, Debbie?
Okay.
Oak Hill?
She's old.
Okay.
Talking about Walmart?
The Walmart, where Sonic's at?
Okay.
Okay. When you go on east and west, and you got a turning lane to go into the Live Oak, to the apartment, and where the bank's at, and behind QT. Now, a lot of people that are going east are thinking that's still a turning lane for them. And I've seen several mishaps that, yeah.
It's a bad spot. It's
It's-
too tight.
I almost had a wreck there.
People are turning into the oncoming lane to try to turn into the Sonic or the Walmart, or, I mean, not the Walmart, the Shell, Exxon? Chevron?
No, it's LC Martin.
Where the McDonald's is at.
Go to the apartment.
There you go, Valley, yeah,
Yeah, Valley Mart.
the Valley Mart. I'm telling you, if you go home, you see the turning lane.
So I think they just recently restriped through.
Yes.
there.
Yes, so that's one I was gonna email you, so I'm wondering, so they redid the arrow to turn into QT, you know, and all that, and then the turning lane to turn in LC Martin is bare, it doesn't have that arrow to where people can see it. There's no arrow there for it to turn, so I was hoping they would do that. And so like Mike was saying, people pull in, they think that's actually a turning lane, they cross, you know, I know, they cross the double yellow line, it's not a turning lane, but they don't, you know, they don't comprehend, and they do because it looks like a turning lane. And there was one time where I was literally in the right, the lane with my turn signal on to turn left to go to Sonic, and the car just went ahead and went around me and almost hit, you know. So I was just hoping they would have put that arrow on there when they did all the other ones. It looks so nice and fresh and pretty now.
Yeah, so we're changing from a 4-inch stripe to a 6-inch stripe statewide. So, I noticed driving through that only half of the town has been done, but the rest will be done.
Great,
So,
wonderful, all right.
upcoming.
Okay, well,
But we'll-
you have something? Okay, David, go ahead, sir.
I sent you an email with some of the items that's already been addressed, but another item was a reduction of the speed limit from 45 through 35 on 173 here coming through town. Maybe slow the traffic down. You can do traffic enforcement, I understand that all day long, but you know, when they're doing, the speed limit's 45, they're doing 60, so generally, hopefully, if you kind of reduce, what's the possibility of that happening?
So we had actually, this was great timing for today, but we had a meeting this morning with our traffic section. We do a monthly meeting. And I brought this up to him last week, but also again this morning we talked about it. And he said that it's very hard to get a reduction in speed below 45. So the way that it works is you put counters out and you check the speed limit for a 24-hour period. And what the data that's taken, they use the 85th percentile. So if 85% of the cars are doing 48, then they would use that to determine what the posted speed would be.
Oh, wow.
So if you're not enforcing it and you're trying to reduce it, it's very hard to get anything below 45, especially if the speed limit currently is 45 through there. They did say if you want to pursue it, the city can do a speed study and provide the information to our traffic office. They'll review it, and then if that's the case, so your numbers have to show that 35 is the speed limit that is to be posted. And so when that, you know, if that were the case, we'll review it, and then you'll need to pass a city ordinance to reduce the speed.
Okay.
So most of our speed limits, the changes have to go through the Transportation Commission. So it's voted on, I won't call it a law, but I mean, you know, it has to be voted on by the Transportation Commission to change any regulatory signs.
Okay, yeah.
So there's another route is a city ordinance, but we did a similar thing in Hondo, and then I bet 2 months after the signs were posted, everyone was upset. So they're trying to raise it back, so.
Oh, boy.
I just want to give you this information because.
Can't win for losing.
If we were the ones doing the study, it would be very hard to reduce the speed limit.
All right, I think we,
Well, the reason I think that we're recommending the speed is because there's no turning lane. When you're going into the WOG or to Riggs or to O'Reilly's or Pizza Hut or Billy Bob's Burgers or the fitness, there's always, I live right across the street, so I called 911 several times when there's been accidents there. It's because somebody is getting ready to take a left, the guy that's behind him pulls to the right, the guy that's behind the other guy that pulls to the right didn't see this stop, lane complete
Right.
stop. And there's always been accidents.
So when we have this project come up, that's something we can request is a wider pavement to include a turn lane. We can also, mind you, the wider the pavement gets, the right of way doesn't change. So we lose room for drainage is what we usually lose. And so then we're limited on sidewalks that we can place out there. And I know by that substation, the ditches are very, deep right there. So we probably would have to do some boxes underneath there to get the water to stay in that ditch and still move down the way. So
gotcha.
that all just adds to cost. And then when we have a budget, where do we cut? So those are the things that we have to kind of look at. We're definitely willing to take all your suggestions and recommendations through there.
okay, all right. Go ahead, Mike, one more, please, and we need to get moving.
Just one more. Okay. Now, the bus drops a lot of students off on the east side, not on the west side. Okay, so everybody on this side on the other side of the tracks, they drop students off. Now, the school bus does go down 173. Is there any way we can put another sign that says that, with the one with the bus and the students getting down, right up here somewhere? Because a lot of people really don't stop for the buses. I'm telling you, I got live video of it that they don't stop. I guess maybe a sign will work if we can't work with the speed.
So I hear you. Our traffic department, we used to put flashing beacons on those bus signs too, but then what happens is the kids out age school and the sign is still there flashing every morning, waiting for somebody to the bus to stop. So they're hesitant to place those signs that if they're not obeying black on white signs,
Well,
I hear you.
So more control then.
completely. But I think really enforcement is the only way that you reach people.
Michael, are you saying that they're unloading buses off of 173?
Yeah.
I think that should be taken to the school board.
Well, no,
Well,
not
they don't cross the street, the houses are all on the.
Yeah.
on the right side, but
Yeah, on each side.
traffic's supposed to stop on both sides.
Right.
But they're not stopping,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I know it's not just them, it should be between us and the school board also,
Right.
Yep.
That's a concern.
All right,
So
okay.
one last thing that I
Sure.
have, David, I'll be getting with you probably. We have the project on 35 at Chacon Creek, so we do have a work zone speed limit reduction. So part of that is outside the city limits and part of it is inside the city limits. I think from the bridge to 173 is inside. So we need some help with being able to enforce that, of needing a city ordinance saying that you guys are okay to reduce that, and we have some paperwork that we can provide to you. But I just wanted to mention it here while we had this audience, and then we'll get with you for later date.
Sure, that sounds like a good idea. All right, okay.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming. It's great to get it right from the horse's mouth to where, because we've talked many times and what have you. It's great to do in front of everybody. So, and it's great working with you. And hopefully we can continue to get some things done.
Definitely. We'll keep working on 132, I promise.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you all again.
Thank you for the invite.
Okay. All right, everybody. Agenda item number 10. Consider and act upon adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's certificates of obligation, taxable series 2025A, 2025A, in the approximate amount of $75,000, providing payment thereof by the levy of an ad valorem tax, and further secured by a lien of the surplus revenues of the system, and other matters in connection therewith. So, David, representative from Samco, please.
Mayor and Council, this is one of a series of ordinances and resolutions that need to be passed in reference to the lead and copper project that is required by the state, by the federal government for the city to do. We put in an application about a year ago, was approved for about $11.6 million, and there's a series of low interest loans, no interest loans, and grants and so forth. So this is just one of the series that you see on the agenda that needs to be passed as part of the process. And Mr. Andrew Freeman from Samco is here to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Andrew Freeman with Samco Capital Markets, financial advisor to the city, joined by Jack McCliney and Lauren Ferrero, your bond attorney with McCall Parkhurst this evening. I'm going to take all four of these items together. Y'all will vote on them individually, but they all are part of the same lead service line replacement program through the water board for your approval tonight. So y'all went through a notice of intention resolution adoption process a couple of months ago, alerting the public of the intent to borrow for these programs that you were approved for by the water board. Tonight's action is selling those certificates of obligation and locking in the interest rates and just proceeding closer to the bond closing for next month for these loans and securing the grants. What Jack McCliney passed out, it should be in front of you on the dais, is a summary of those, as Mr. Jordan summarized already. We've got a 0% interest loan for $75,000, be repaid over the course of 30 years. Then you've got an accompanying grant. The water board refers to it as loan forgiveness, $78,000, both for the inventory survey of lead service lines within the community, and then the actual lead service line replacement is the Series 2025B, and that's a low interest loan from the water board carrying an interest rate of 3.36%. That's an interest rate lower than what we would borrow at under our own credit. So 3.36% today would be somewhere around 4.25%. So we're getting a much better interest rate, and that's for $5,590,000 worth of the project. And then along with that is a grant for $5,818,000. Again, a grant-free money. So in total for this $11.5 million project, 51% of this project is being paid for from grants from the EPA administered through the Texas Water Development Board, the remainder through either 0% interest or low interest rate loans. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Your bond attorney, Ms. Ferrero, is here, and your engineer is here as well for any of the project particulars that I can't speak to since I'm a finance guy, not an engineer.
I think we've gone over this at a previous meeting. It has to do with the lead copper pipes going to the houses, and then of course our lead copper pipes in the right of ways and so forth. So anyway.
We're not yet discussing the actual contract for the work. This is just for the loan, yeah.
Can I make a motion then?
I'd like to make a couple of comments first before
Sure thing, go ahead.
we move forward. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Lauren Ferrero, and I serve as bond counsel to the city. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments as it relates to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. There we go. I wanted to make a couple comments as it relates to these particular programs. As you know, the city submitted an application to the Texas Water Development Board, specifically as it relates to these new programs in order to meet the federal mandates that the United States has implemented as it related to the lead in these service lines. There are two components to this program, one being the inventory of that line, and two being the lead service replacement, particularly on the private side of the meter. I do want to note that these are new programs both with the Texas Water Development Board and areas of first impression with the Texas Attorney General's office. That being said, those two organizations or agencies are in communications with each other related to the logistics of this program. While we have, excuse me.
While we have a goal of closing on April 16th, as you know, state government moves at its own pace. So we want to advise the city not to expend any proceeds in advance of that April 16th day for closing, because it may be pushed backward as they work through the specifics of these programs. So I just wanted to make sure that the city is well aware of what's going on at both of those agencies, as this is very new to both of them.
Good, thank you very much. I have a quick question. Tom, do we need to do these individually, or can we group at 10, 11, 12, 13?
I would prefer that you do them individually.
All right, sir. Okay, all right.
Okay, then, I'll start with the first one.
There we go.
Yeah, okay, we're on agenda item number 10.
Number 10, I make a motion that we adopt an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's certificate of obligation, taxable series 2025A, in the approximate amount of $75,000, providing payment thereof as a levy of an ad valorem tax, further secured by a lien of the surplus revenues of the system and other matters in connection herewith.
Okay, we have a motion from Debbie. I won't repeat the whole thing. But it's just a reference to C of O, an approximate amount of $75,000 on this particular one.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Jeff. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to agenda item number 11. Consider and act upon adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's certificates of obligation, taxable series 2020. Oh, excuse me, let me backtrack real quick. That would be ordinance 3-25 for agenda item number 10. 3-25. Is that what you wanted? Okay, all right, I'll start again on agenda item number 11. Consider and act upon adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's certificates of obligation, taxable series 2025B, in the approximate amount of $5,590,000, providing payment thereof by the levy of an ad valorem tax, and further secured by a lien of the surplus revenues of the system and other matters in connection therewith. I think this speaks
I'll make the motion we adopt that ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion from Debbie
It's a lot easier.
to adopt the ordinance for taxable series 2025B in the approximate amount of $5,590,000.
I'll second.
We have a second from Ray. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 12.
It'll be 3B,
Oh,
3-25.
It's 3-25A. Ordinance number 3-25A. Agenda item number 12. Consider and act upon adopting a resolution authorizing and approving the execution of a principal forgiveness agreement with the Texas Water Development Board in the amount of $78,061 and other matters in connection therewith.
And I'll move that we adopt that ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion from Jeff to adopt the resolution.
It's a resolution.
The resolution.
Oh, resolution, my bad.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Debbie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Ordinance, resolution number 3-25B. 3-25B. Agenda item 13. Consider and act upon adopting a resolution authorizing and approving the execution of a principal forgiveness agreement with the Texas Water Development Board in the amount of $5,818,163 and other matters in connection therewith.
I'll make the motion that we adopt a resolution on.
All right, we have the motion from Debbie to adopt the resolution
I'll second.
in the amount of $5,818,163. We have a second from Jeff. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. The number for the resolution will be 3-25C. 3-25C. All right, that was easy. I got my reading practice in.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all once again. Appreciate you. Okay, now we head on to agenda item number 14. Consider and act upon authorizing the city administrator to enter into an energy contract with the lowest energy price provider recommended by Marco A. Arredondo Incorporated for a term of up to 10 years. All right, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I guess when I came here and Dora, Dora's been around here forever. I'm Marco Arredondo. I'm actually a professional engineer, and it looks like I'm more of an accountant when I'm trying to deal with all these energy numbers and your budgets. But we go back since about 2009 when you all were paying about 10 cents per kilowatt hour and got this, and got your energy price down to about 4 cents. So when we started in 2009, we've actually saved your city about $60,000 per year. That's what that 6 cents difference meant over the last 6 years. The last contract we signed with Direct Energy was about 72 months, and we were actually staging this down, trying to stay ahead of the energy market. This is my brother Danny Arredondo. He's a retired military civil engineer, he's electrical engineer as well, both professional engineers. So when we tell you we're engineers, we're not going to do anything to harm you. Our job is to protect you, kind of like your attorney. You know, we're here to see that everything in your energy is solid. I think you heard and you saw the news when the freeze hit that a lot of cities and a lot of customers had bills that went up to $1 million, $600,000. Some of the cities in the valley. Well, they had energy contracts that weren't fully fixed energy contracts. My background is I'm an ex-AEP engineer. Back from, I retired in 1996, so resigned. And so I came to represent cities and industrial customers, because when deregulation happened, I can tell you nobody understood what an energy contract was, everything was involved. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna get out here and be the liaison between cities, counties, school districts, and help everybody out. And yes, I do carry $1 million E&O, so when I tell you something is, it is, or else I'm in trouble. And so when this freeze hit, a lot of my cities, school districts, counties said, when are we gonna see our big bill? And I said, I'm not going to jail, I'm not gonna be sued, and you're not gonna see a big bill, because we made sure that every contract that I ever signed, and yours was as well. When the freeze hit, you didn't see a single penny. I had a city down in the valley that's about the size of yours. For those 4 days of energy, $279,000. It was their entire annual budget.
So you are saying that you would get a fixed contract, no variable rate?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it has been since 2009. I've been with you guys for the last 16 years, and that's why I tell you, I've been through a lot of city administrators, and Dora and Denise have been my rocks here. When you decide to take over the golf course, get rid of the golf course, take it on again, get the baseball fields. You don't see me, but in the background, I'm working with them to make sure that all your meters are transferred, that all the contracts are assumed correctly, so that when you give the responsibility to somebody else. When they redid the golf course and the restaurant area, I got involved with them because I'm ex-AEP, wanted to make sure that your clients out there didn't pay too much to make sure that they got what they needed for their restaurant. So there's a lot of things happening in the background. Like I said, you don't see me, but Dora calls me, she says, I got this going on. And now that Danny, he retired, came to work with me, he's at New Braunfels, used to be in Bernie. So you might see us more often now, because instead of me driving 3 hours from Corpus Christi, he's an hour away.
I believe you.
City of Cotulla is one of our clients, part of our services, and now he came on, he's an IT expert, kind of, sort of. He's encryption, but he does IT. What we're doing now for our cities is we're actually going out there, taking a picture of every meter of every one of your accounts to verify that you're paying for the right meter. We're getting the GPS coordinates. We're putting in a PDF file and giving you a searchable database so that any one of you or your city administration, even if they change, can click on a Google Earth map and you know where that meter is, how much you paid on it for the last 5 years, you know, what's the variances between last year, that month, and this year. So we've actually taken our service up, because what we find a lot of cities doing, you're trying to keep your customers happy, but looking at all that data number crunching, that's a lot of work, and nobody really cares until there's a problem. So what we're doing is we're monitoring all of that as engineers behind the scenes, and we're creating that database so that you can easily look on it, even as a city councilman, and say, I've got this thing here, they're complaining, what's going on? You know, did the bill go up, did it go too much? So we actually monitor that on a monthly basis. Those are things that we do, and because you haven't seen me, I just want to tell you, this is what we do behind the scenes and what goes on. Denise probably is the one that works with us closely, Dora, and because when numbers go wrong, that's when we get the call. you know, and see what's going on. This sheet here, and I apologize, but now that we're going out to 10-year contracts, it's kind of hard to put all the numbers. These are all the quotes we received. We have been monitoring energy since the freeze. And we were watching and hoping that the energy was gonna come back down, because you all were sitting at 4.1 cents per kilowatt hour. So if I come to the city council 2 years later and say, oh, we need to sign a grid contract right now, it's at 5 or 6 cents, you're gonna say, I don't think so. What kind of good news is that? And so we felt that when the presidential election was coming, we were gonna get that great 20% break. Well, to give you an idea of energy, in 2001, and y'all are familiar with natural gas sitting about $3 per MCF, that's what you pay for. Energy was always about 1 cent higher than that. So it was $3 MCF, you could get 4 cent energy. So in 2001, you could get 4 cent energy. All the way when we had, I know the people that own oil and gas loved it, but in 2011, when it went up to $14, you know, we're paying 14 cents per kilowatt hour for energy, then we were tracking that, and now we've come down in 2021, we came all the way back down to 4 cents. Southwest Texas Junior College is one of my customers, and 2021, right before the freeze, their contract was up for renewal, and they got a 4.2 cent rate for 10 years. So they're sitting on a 4.2 cent rate through 2031. And it wasn't my doing, because most governments won't go beyond 5 years. You were the first ones that went for 6 years at 4.2 cents, because we saw the good deal with direct energy, and we said, came before the city council and said, you know what, let's go out, and your city council said, hey, let's take the money, and we've done very well. But they would not go beyond 7 years back then. So when I went before the board at South Texas Junior College, one of our members said, when I told them 20 years, it went from 4 cents to 4 cents. He goes, well, give me a 20-year contract. Nobody would give you a 20-year fully fixed contract. But they would give him a 10-year. And he said, well, if you can't give me a 20, I'll take a 10. And they unanimous vote that quick. And I wish I could have taken credit for that one. But it was kind of one of those things that I'm glad they did it. Now just about every client is taking a 10-year contract, and I'll tell you why. Texas now, you notice natural gas is still not that high, but energy's through the roof. And you've seen the news. We don't have any power plants. And everybody's coming to Texas.
Yeah, demand is.
I'm not gonna talk about California, but everybody's coming to Texas. And they're eating up all our energy. Our reserves are down about 20%. Solar and wind, which was federally subsidized through grants, is not sustainable, reliable power. The wind doesn't blow, then all of a sudden the energy gets crunched, supply and demand, and the energy rates are going through the roof. You'll notice that the state has put $10 billion behind somebody building a new power plant. But every base load reliable power plant has to bid into the grid every day. So if they're the lowest bid, they get the energy, they get to sell the energy. Everybody else does not. But if you have solar and wind, you have to buy the energy. Whether it's 10 cents or it's 12 cents, we have to buy the energy. So the poor guys that are doing natural gas and coal and nuclear, they're bidding, and solar and wind, which are unreliable, are going through the roof. And the state finally realized we got a problem. The whole country has a problem. So that's why they're talking about nuclear power plants. But until we get more power plants built in the state of Texas, and there's only one coming on in Austin, and it's really for the city of Austin. So until we get more power plants built, this energy price is not gonna come down. And it's gonna take at least 5 years to build a power plant. You know, if it's not in your backyard, who wants a power plant in their backyard? You know, I used to do CPL. Nobody wants it in their backyard. You need one, but build it on Mikey's house, right? And so we still got to do something about this, and that's why I tell you, even though I'm seeing a 27% rate increase for you going out, I'm not recommending you go out 10 years. I say up to 10 years because this is a commodity. The prices I just gave you, I got yesterday. They may not be any good today. If I got you this price in November when I wanted to come see you, it was a half a cent lower. It was actually $5,000 per year lower. And so I don't want to wait very long. That's why I came before you now. Because spring usually brings lower prices, but it's all off the table because there's no power plants. And we don't expect there's going to be a power plant built for at least 7 years. So I want to try and bridge the city and to at least get us somewhere out there where maybe we get a power plant before we have to go out for another contract renewal. And yeah, over the last 7 years, we saved $60,000 a year because that was 4.1 cents. So we're giving some of it back. You know, we're gonna lose $40,000 a year, but not the end of the world. It could be a lot worse. And if I'd have done this in 2024, they were probably around 6.5 cents, but I thought it was too high. And everybody thought the election was gonna drop the energy down. And then California and AI and Bitcoin and everybody came to our state and ate up everything.
Well, what I see as a problem though is that I don't know that the growth is gonna slow down for Texas.
It's not.
So my thinking is, I like the longer term, but it's like, because even if they bring on that extra power plant, at that point, it may be kind of a crisis, and we're not gonna feel much from that.
And
just one power
everything
plant.
is so expensive. Even when you drive by a house today compared to, you know, pre-COVID, you're already paying $100 more per square foot. So when we build a new power plant, it's not gonna be that cheap, and energy's gonna be that more expensive. I wish I could get you a 20-year contract, still can't. You know, when I lose 2%, it goes from 27% increase to 29 in 1 year. I have a hard time going up to 2% when I just shave off 1 year, but I'm glad that you guys and I may not be around to find out whether that's the right decision or not. If I say go 9 years, we don't know what's gonna happen, you know, 9 years from now. We're just, you know, should I have gone that extra 1 year? I don't know, but I have to sit down and crunch that number, and then I have to talk to David and say, okay, David, what do you want? And that's why I tell you go up to 10. Tomorrow, if it drops down, 10 years is cheaper than 9 years. Well, of course, we want to execute a 10-year. But that's a decision that I will talk with David Jordan. He knows what his budgets are. You know, the good news is that it's not as bad as some other people are. You know, some of the other people are seeing 8.5 cent rates right now. It's just terrible. If you're looking at your residential rate right now, you're 10 cents per kilowatt hour for the energy. If you try and go out 3 years, you know, now it gets even worse, 15.5 cents when you're looking at it. So you're lucky to be commercial, you're lucky to be a city. If you were private, they're not gonna give you a 10-year contract because you can't guarantee you're gonna be in business for more than 5
I
years.
got a 5-year last week.
Yeah, because I got some clients that use 30 times your energy and they want a 10-year contract, they can't get it. You know. Anyhow, I just trying to kind of show you where we're at, where I'm coming from, what we're trying to accomplish here, you know, some of the services that we provide. But I noticed that you're a very interactive council. And I am a pretty good expert at a lot of things, so ask away.
You've identified the fact that you've already thought over every question I could possibly have, so I'm ready to make a motion if you folks are.
I just have hang on please. Okay, I just have a quick question. Okay, so you already put all this out here, this is what you got for this upcoming program. How do you get your compensation?
It's actually part of the contract here. It's a brokerage fee. I'm glad you asked that question. With you guys, the city, for all the services we provide, it's actually 0.5 cents, which is about $5,000 a year. So all the things that we do for you on the background, the input and everything, when I tell people is, you guys are my mission statement, all right? Because at $5,000 a year, as professional engineers, typically get $250 an hour. You can't do a whole lot for $5,000.
Right.
And
Some
we
of it,
become your engineers of record.
yeah, and so when you're building a new building or something, we will be involved with we'll be your engineer consultant, like if you're building a new city hall or something's going on, we will get involved with the air conditioning, the lighting, the LED lighting. If we're asked, we oversee all engineering plans, even with your water and wastewater plants. Because everybody's trying to sell you gold-plated stuff, and that's why I say I'm the Don Quixote. I'm trying to protect my tax dollars.
Yeah, gotcha. I was just curious, okay.
But you're making a half cent per kilowatt hour for all the electric we use for the year.
Yeah, it comes out to about $5,000 a year.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we authorize the city administrator to enter into an energy contract with the lowest energy price provider recommended by Marco A. Arredondo Incorporated for a term of up to 10 years.
Okay, hang on please. Okay, we have a motion from Josh to authorize the city and enter an energy contract with Marco Arredondo Incorporated. We We have a second from Debbie, okay. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Very informative, appreciate it.
Sorry about the energy going on.
It's all your fault.
It was only nice to have to take your $60,000 a year, but those days are over for a while.
Thank you.
Okay, continuing on, everybody. All right, agenda item number 15. Consider and act upon adopting a resolution authorizing the submission of a Texas Community Development Block Grant Program application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for the Downtown Revitalization Program. David, sir, please brief.
Sir, Mayor and Council, I'm asking permission for the city to be able to apply for this grant for the Downtown Revitalization Program. The grant amount is $1 million. It does have a matching amount of $50,000. So this money, if granted to the city, would allow us to rebuild our downtown as far as sidewalks and areas of blight. So, for example, you could use that money for like facade improvements on buildings and so forth to be able to allow us to rebuild the downtown and actually have a downtown area to identify as the city of Devine. So this is why I brought it before the council today. It's on the timeline, as you see at the top on page 2. On the phase 1 is April 3rd, and then goes forth from there. So that's why I was bringing it to the council now. So if approved, we can move forward with the possibility of being granted the money.
Okay, you said improve the facades of buildings and such, so on private buildings?
So there's programs that the city can, there's programs that the city can provide, yes, with the money that would allow, if a person puts, cities can reimburse businesses to improve their buildings, their locations for the improvement of the city. So if I put $50,000 into the facade of my building, then I can I can request and show proof that I did that.
Okay.
So turn in receipts to the city, I can get, say, 25% reimbursement for that, which improves the appearance of the city, and it's an economic development tool that attracts other businesses and so forth and so on. So it goes all.
So you're talking about like, maybe we could redo the sidewalks and maybe some attractive street lighting, something like that?
Correct, and even make sidewalks where there are none. So it's all about safety, all about pedestrian mobility, all about appearance of the city, to be able to have identifiable downtown and in historical district, some of the buildings that we have in historical areas that we could be perhaps spruced up and identified that way.
And then we can use funds to encourage property owners to participate on their own.
Right, absolutely.
Got it. Okay.
So is this similar to like what I've seen before is called the Main Street program?
It's similar, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's a good program. I mean, I like the idea.
Right.
About a grant.
I think we should do it. I'm just really worried about if we start handing money out to individual building owners.
Well, yeah, you don't have to.
We could get a whole town burned down.
This is just to get the grant right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Apply.
That's fine.
And then
Yeah, you don't have to give them anything.
then this is just to apply what we're doing tonight.
Yes, ma'am, request permission to apply for the grant.
Then later, the council will decide what the program will actually do.
Absolutely. So in the
That's what I'm
grant,
asking.
in the grant package, we can submit some ideas of what the money would be used for. But at the end of the day, if it's approved, of course, the money.
If we decide though, not on one of the ideas in the grant package, but on a different one that's on the grant package, as long as we do one of those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As long as it was.
So we don't have to be giving money to, like you said.
Oh, then I'm in.
No, ma'am, we're not giving money to anyone. Like I said, if you put your money in, $50,000, and then the city offers reimbursements after I bring my receipts and prove I spent $50,000 on this building, then the city can give a reimbursement of maybe 25, 50%. It's called a facade improvement. So it improves the downtown, it spruces up the city, it increases the economic development and notoriety for your city and etc. So this is one of many programs. I just threw it out there as an idea. But we can build sidewalks. I mean, I can spend $1 million on sidewalks just alone on that project alone, and that qualifies,
That'd
so.
be like an eighth of a mile,
Right,
not
so,
even that
Yeah, it would be
probably.
good for it all to be updated, I mean,
right.
yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
go ahead.
Make a motion, we adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of a Texas Community Development Block Grant Program application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for the Downtown Revitalization Program.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Josh to adopt a resolution for the Downtown Development Block Grant Program, second from Debbie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
What's the number on that one?
Next agenda item is an interesting one. Agenda item number 16. Consider and act upon appointing an alderman or city administrator to represent the City of Devine membership as a director on the Medina County Regional Water Alliance's Board of Directors.
Excuse me, but we need
Oh,
the
I forgot the
resolution number.
Hey, I do that a lot.
Sorry.
Backtrack to agenda item 15. The resolution number is 3-25D as in David.
Okay.
I do that a lot. We got a lot of items on here, man. I'm gonna move on. Okay, all right. Back to agenda item 16. Consider and act upon appointing an alderman or city administrator to represent the City of Devine membership as a director on the Medina County Regional Water Alliance's Board of Directors. David, please brief.
Mayor and Council, as you're all aware, the City of Devine agreed to enter into an agreement with Medina County for a partnership for the ASR, Aquifer Storage Reserve. In the event that we have an excess water, the county would take that excess water and store it into another aquifer, take it from the Edwards and transport it to the Trinity and store it for future use as like a water bank. So it still is in infant stages in the process of appointing their board of directors. Each attending city is allowed to have a primary and alternate person appointed on those boards. And this is what these next two items are asking to do, to appoint a primary person and a secondary person. The verbiage that says alderman, but it does not have to actually be a sitting council person. It can be appointed designee as like a city manager and so forth. So,
And I believe most of these meetings are going to take place during the business day. So my recommendation would be to appoint David.
Amen.
Since he works every day and so forth and so on, he should be readily available.
And he knows the issues of Devine, so it would be best.
But if any of the council wishes to attend these meetings, consider that too.
I don't know that most of us up here would be able to, but my hope here is to get at least an alternate on there who is, we'll say, skeptical at the least of the program. And so, if I may call soon-to-be Debbie's replacement, Hal? You're retired. Can we call him up to the podium?
Go ahead, Judge.
You're retired now, right?
I'm retired.
What's your opinion on the this water board? Are you familiar with this water board?
Well, I'm shocked how high it went up. Was it 21 point something percent?
Oh.
Well, there's a water alliance where we.
This is for the county.
You might need to go to the podium, please. Now, this particular agenda item is referring to the proposal to store water with an alliance from the other communities and so forth. So it doesn't really refer to local water rates. And what the project is like to store excess water, which hopefully we will have some. And basically, I think what we're talking about, Trinity Aquifer.
Trinity Aquifer.
And they have a process where it can basically essentially be stored in a bubble for us. And then it's a coalition of every government within Medina County, including the water systems, the cities, the county, and so forth. So this is just to have a director for our city to represent us on the board, of the decision-making board.
Okay, someone to oversee it, make sure everything's going okay, is what you're asking me?
Well, you need, whoever would do it would need to attend the meetings, be there in person.
Are you wanting me to attend those meetings?
Well, I think
That's
what he's getting to.
My personal thought would be have you as an alternate, David as a primary.
I have no problem with that.
You have a problem?
No, I don't have a problem, that's good.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to attend the meetings, anything I can do to help, I'm here.
Great way to get engaged. All right. I'll make a motion, we appoint David as the primary for the water board then.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint David, Mr. Jordan, as the director on the Medina County Regional Water Alliance Board of Directors. We have a second from Ray. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. That concludes item 16. A related agenda item, number 17. Consider and act upon appointing an alderman or city administrator to represent the City of Devine membership as an alternate director on the Medina County Regional Water Alliance.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Hal Lance as the secondary.
All right. We have a motion from Josh to appoint incoming Alderman Hal Lance as the alternate director in case David is not able to participate. We have another second from Ray. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. And you're obviously welcome to go to all the meetings anyway. Yeah, so, okay. And it might be a good idea if you could.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. Okay, agenda item 18. Consider and act upon accepting the certificate of unopposed candidates. Dora, if you wish to speak quickly.
This is just the certification showing that
We have unopposed candidates for the mayor's race, District 2 and District 5. So this is the first thing we need to do before we order the cancellation.
I'll make a motion, we accept the, where are we at here, 17, accept the certification. I don't know where it's certification of unopposed candidates.
Okay, we have a motion from Josh to accept the certification of unopposed candidates for the May election.
I'll second.
We have a second from Ray. Oh, a second from Mike. Second from Mike. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Also related to the election, agenda item number 19. Consider and act upon ordering the cancellation of the election for the mayor, District 2 and District 5 alderpersons.
I'll make a motion, we order the cancellation of the election for the mayor, District 2 and District 5.
All right, motion from Josh to cancel the election for the 3 positions.
Second.
Second from Michael. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I do want to add to that, so we still have to follow the law. So even though we're canceling it, on May the 9th, for general type A city, this will be the first day the elected officials may qualify and assume duty, and that would be for Mr. Lance.
Okay.
Okay?
So we would have a meeting then?
We'll have to, it gives me a time frame when to have the meeting, for this, yes, but we'll have to meet that deadline.
You need a special meeting to do that? I thought it was just the earliest that he can assume duties.
No, it gives us the dates of what we have to follow.
Oh, so he must be sworn in by then.
He's gonna have to be, yes, sworn in. So on May 6th Seems very early. To May 14th is, the time frame for canvassing, but we won't be canvassing, is May 6th through, May 14th. So, and then for May 9th, that's when, we'll be getting him sworn in and all of that. He'll be able to assume his duties.
And if it's a special meeting, we must have
Yeah.
supermajority again?
So would our regular meeting that month would be May the 20th?
Yeah, you can't wait for that.
I got you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
call a special election, that's the earliest that Mr. Lance can be sworn in, as soon as please, or you can wait until a regular meeting. I'm just giving you these options, I'm not advocating one way or the other. You can wait until a regular council meeting, and he can be sworn in at that time. Until he's sworn in, Debbie continues to hold her
Right,
office. Yeah.
right, okay. Well, I'm okay with that, actually, just wait for the regular meeting. However, if you guys, wish to do otherwise, I'm sure we can figure something out on that too. Yes, sir. Since we're talking about civil
I'm flying to Honduras, May 6th through the 14th with my wife.
So the 20th would work.
Well, that settles that.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
How dare you leave us?
Oh, I'm scared. I want to come back, you know.
All right, guys. So that doesn't require any action. Right, we're just gonna do it then, okay. All right, gotcha, thanks, Al. Okay, agenda item number 20. We don't have any numbers or any resolution numbers, right? For us, it's okay. All right. Consider and act upon the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commissioners meeting held on February 19th, 2025. A request made by Zachary Beadle for a variance to park his trucks on the city street right-of-way, 411 West Benton, here in Devine. Okay, David?
Mayor and council has received, Mr. Beadle went before the planning and zoning to renew his application to park his trucks in the city easement and request a waiver. It was approved February 19th. The final decision goes to the city council for approval, some for part of it, some of it, and none of it. That's what you have before you for a decision.
Was it a unanimous decision?
It was a unanimous decision, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Comments, council?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
You know, and I think everybody obviously knows Mr. Beadle's situation. I was gonna just ask, you know, just for information's sake, do you know about how much longer you're going to try to operate? I mean, I realize it may be kind of hard to, but I mean, I think it's a valid question, because I mean, you've
Oh,
been
yeah, I don't
doing
have
this
a
a long
problem with that
time.
at all, because there is gonna come a day when I'm gonna play out.
Right.
If I don't, my truck will.
But I mean, if you had to just take a guess, what would your, I mean, you haven't,
I can tell you this, I don't operate under my own authority. I have a God that I believe in, and He leads wherever it is I go. I don't expect that I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, as much as I wouldn't mind. It's not that I'm looking to get out. But, my truck's 48 years old, and I kind of set a goal for 50. So I'd say at least 2 more years, but I can tell you this, her and I have decided to look into putting our house up for sale so we can get out of here.
Sure.
I don't know what a hassle this is for y'all, but it's a hassle for me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I just think it's unfortunate that it got to this point for you, because
Well, I've been 36 years, and
yeah,
the
exactly.
last 8 years have been a problem.
It could have been addressed a long time ago, you know, as far as whatever you were gonna do at that point, and you made plans, and you moved forward. And I don't think anybody has a question about that. It's just that now, what's happening is there's a little bit of a push, as you can hear, happening in the city. And anytime you have an exception, it raises questions for other people that also have issues, like they're trying to get somebody else to correct an issue, and then they point out people, and I don't have a problem with it being grandfathered, I really don't. But you know, that's just the world, that's just how it works, and I'm sure you're more than aware of that.
Oh, sure, sure.
Cool.
Go through it every day with the lawman. They change our laws up all the time, so if you're not up to speed with what's going on in the law book, you get pulled over and they put you out of business.
Yes, sir. And that's kind of, that was my main question, because, you know, in the doing the variance, I'm sure it is a little bit of a hassle, having to go through this process over and over and over. At what point did they, I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
No, go ahead.
Because I'm just curious for historical because of you and other issues. But at what point, or how many years ago would you say that somebody actually from the city actually pointed out to you that, hey, you're gonna need to get a variance or you're gonna need to do something?
It wasn't.
Was it about 10 years ago?
Yeah, but
It
it
was about
wasn't
10
the
years.
city. It came to the city, and it was back in 2016.
It was back in 2016, and it wasn't the city, it was somebody that came to that city administrator at that time.
Oh,
And so it was a complaint.
Huh?
It was a complaint.
Who was the complaint?
I'm asking, was it a complaint?
I don't know, I just know that that city administrator put it on the agenda, and that's when it started, that he had to go through the planning and zoning and the council. And that was back in
I think
2016.
it was a question. It was a question of why
Yeah,
can't he
yeah.
be in the right of way and park? And that's why it came to council.
right, well, it's, you know, it's always that thing of, I mean, the reason why that's kind of a common state rule brought into city code is because it's a visual thing, it's a like safety issue for people making the intersection. So being able to see sight lines, in other words. In your case, I mean, I've seen you're real careful about pulling it as far as you can go and all that. I don't have an issue with you finishing out your time. I'm just asking those questions because the big thing about a variance is, yes, it's about you, but it's also really more about everybody else and how it affects, like, you know, them, as far as them wanting to get the same kind of thing. And that's just a common thing that, you know, I've dealt with all my life too. And, you know, you make one person an exception, then it makes it harder to enforce something with somebody else. I think most people around here know you though. I mean, it makes it a little bit better than if we were in a bigger city, quite honestly. But those were just my general questions, just for information.
I would like to state that I would cease opposing the push to not approve this variance if we had developed a multi-year, probably a 5-10 year development plan, and we're taking active steps forward for the beautification of the city. Because I understand the big concern here is people don't like the look of it. But until we take active steps to improve the appearance overall, which we're starting to with the code enforcement and such, but until we can say, hey, your step 4 of 14 is getting stuff out of the right of way, then at that point I get it, and we're applying it equally across the city, and folks who do park on the streets, then we're enforcing that code on them as well. At that point we have the consistency, and we're actually pursuing a plan rather than, I see that thing all the time and I don't like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a matter of too in our neighborhood, because I'm a part of Zach's neighborhood as well. We have more than one issue going on there, and so it's like it's just you're trying to not give somebody ammunition for, you know, trying to correct things that need to be corrected. Now, there's situations that are different than his, but at the same time, you know, it's like I would want to think that this city, and you know, I've talked to several members. This is when we were talking about Curcio Park and other things. This city would want to enforce whatever they're going to enforce the same in District 5 as they're going to do in our neighborhood. I expect our neighborhood to have the same respect as every other neighborhood should have the same respect and the same standard. Because when it doesn't, that's not good, you know. And we have to realize that as we make changes, though, we run into people like Mr. Beadle, who's, you know, kind of got stuck in a cycle there where, you know, it's not really honestly his fault that he got stuck in that. It just kind of happened, and the city at that point did something, and we can go back and question that, but that was 10 years ago.
So historically then, you've been operating for how many years?
36.
And you've done this for 36 years, but nobody even brought it up until...
I've never had anybody complain. I talked to my neighbors.
Until a little over 8 years ago.
You know, and I was hauling a lot more cattle back in them days, and
yeah.
As you can well imagine that, you know, certain kind of cattle come home stinking.
Yeah.
So I washed my trailer out, and I took care of that kind of thing. I made a comment, I think it was at planning and zoning one time that, I had a complaint, or Candy called me and said somebody complained about my cattle trailer,
About, oh, okay.
about my cattle trailers, because she smelled, you know. And I'm gonna nutshell this, and I'm gonna be as nice as I can, but, that trailer was washed out clean. What she was smelling was the west wind from Morales feedlot.
Yeah, that used to be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so you see and you assume. But she made a complaint over something she had no business making a complaint over.
yeah,
I've done everything in the world to try to keep it clean, and, you know, Candy even told me at one time, what was it, maybe the first 2 or 3 times I'd to come here, that she said, I don't even notice that trailer anymore. It's been sitting there for so long. I mean, it's licensed and ready to go. I just went to Hondo this morning with it to get an inspection, so I can buy my license plates.
I just wish for, you know, not necessarily for you, but for the sake of other issues that come up when people have a question, we can say, hey, this has been grandfathered for a term limit. You know, like, hey, he wants to do this another 5 years. We say, hey, you know, it'd be nice to be able to just not have to do this every year.
Sure.
Because, you know, and that's why I was asking you how much longer you see yourself doing it, because I think it would be kind of nice to have some kind of a limit set, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this, I can get real long-winded, but there's a kind of a status in the trucking business. If you have a certain truck, everybody loves you. I'm driving a truck that's no longer manufactured. In fact, Peterbilt quit building cab overs completely in the 90s. Mine's a 76, same year I graduated high school. So in effect, me and that truck went to work at the same time. I'm 50 years in the workforce, 48. Yeah, well, 48 years in the workforce, so is that truck. So I figured, you know, 50th anniversary, maybe we'll both retire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
But I can't say that because I serve some of our local people.
Right.
You know, my business is in the business of service to deliver product. It doesn't do Scott Yonte any good to have hay laying on his farm. So I made myself available to haul his hay. If Frank Helvey or Kelly Thigpen wants cattle hauled, you know, they call me because I can get the job done. That's just all there is to it. But for me to say when, again, this is something that's really out of my control, or I won't say it's out of my control. It's not known by me what the Lord would lead in my life from this point forward. Like I said, I'm a praying guy, and I seek a perfect will of God in my life that says, this is where I want you to go, this is what I want you to do, and I'm going to bless you along the way. And I don't want to stand here and be a religious guy, you know, I don't bore y'all with a bunch of religion, but that's how I operate. So in 2 years, he may open something up that I can't resist, and I'm going to park that truck and go somewhere and go do something else.
fair enough. Okay, I think we've,
Yeah, I wish we
Don't
didn't have
do
to
well
do this
enough.
either.
well, yeah, unfortunately we do. So,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a pain for y'all too.
yeah, well, you know, no, not really, it's just part of what we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, anyway, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the variance for 2 years.
Every year.
The motion was for 1 year, and by ordinance, you can only give 1 year.
All right, I'll make a motion, we, all right, I make a motion, we waive the ordinance and, I make a motion, we waive the time period and approve the variance for 2 years.
Okay, we have a motion from Josh, to waive the time period.
Which, can I interject?
Hang on, sir.
Yeah.
To waive the time period and, award the variance for 2 years rather than 1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have a second from Michael? Okay. Zach, I'll allow you to speak real quick.
All I want to say is that if something should come up in the city that needs me to move, I'll move. I'm not going to buck or fight the system, you know what I mean? But right now, there's nothing going on, and as far as I know, there's no issues. I'll let it ride, but I have no problem with working with whatever needs being done.
I would like to remind council that, once again, now we're not only, possibly granting the variance, but now we're waiving one of our ordinances. So please keep that in mind. Okay? Any discussion? Anything further? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Okay, opposed? Debbie? All right, motion passes 4-1. Debbie in opposition. All right, thanks, Zach.
So it'll be 2 years now?
Yes, sir?
Again, if you need me to do something, let me know.
All right, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right, moving on, agenda item 21. Consider and act upon adopting the ordinance appointing 6 members to the Board of Directors for the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 2, City of Devine Redevelopment Program.
Mayor and Council, before you, we have basically you're just updating your requirements. As a general law city, when you have a TERS, the city council is the governing body of that tax increment reinvestment zone. So we're basically electing and appointing new members to this board to make it active. So as you're aware, we are actively seeking development out on the 75-acre land property that affects the TERS increment zone. So I would like to be able to bring items to you and the board act on it with an active board. So that's why we have this updated version with the new appointments, requested appointments for the TERS number 2.
So essentially, it's the mayor and the alderman that be 6 positions?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So how do we appoint, I saw here you have Hal on there, but he's not yet been sworn in. So is this legally binding then, or do we have to do it again after he's sworn in?
You can appoint him as alderman-elect.
There we go. Good enough.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance appointing 6 members to the Board of Directors, including the mayor and all aldermen, including 4 aldermen, and the 5th being, what did we say?
Alderman-elect.
Alderman-elect, to be on the Board of Directors for the tiers, number 2, City of Devine Redevelopment Program.
All right, we have a motion from Jeff to adopt the ordinance appointing 6 members to the Board of Directors for the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 2. These members include Mayor Butch Cook, Alderman District 1 Ray Gonzalez, Alderman District 2 Michael Hernandez, Alderman District 3 Jeff Miller, Alderman District 4 Josh Ritchie, and Alderman-elect for District 5 Harold Lance Jr. We have a second from Ray. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 22. Consider and act upon change submitted by the Public Utility Commission of Texas right-of-way access line rates. Change submitted by the PUC of Texas for right-of-way access line rates. I missed that one, David.
Okay.
Mayor, council people, this is something we do every year. Public Utility Commission, they always let us know that we can go up in our line access rates, and what we, basically this is paid by the consumer, and every year we've kept it at the same rate. So you can go up, it's in the second page there. The adjusted maximum rates are as follows. Or you can leave it at the default rate.
I definitely don't think we should be raising it.
It's one of those things that we just deny it, and then they fight it in court later, and then we come back and have to accept it.
No, you.
I think generally you go to the default rate.
Yeah, just approve the default rate.
Generally you approve the default rate, which is of course lower than the proposed rate, and then go from there.
All right, I'll make a motion, we accept the default rate.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion from Josh to accept the default rate for the right-of-way access line rates. Okay, we have a second from Debbie for the same. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 23, information items. I have one quick one. Opening day for Little League is this Saturday. Ceremonies begin at 9:30, and yours truly will be announcing. But anyway, Yeah, they wrangle me in, so, but anyway. Anyway, it's always a lot of fun, ton of kids, a lot of colors. It's a great day. It looks like we're gonna have great weather.
I see this proposal for assistance from the city of Devine to enforce permits for nonprofit signage based in the Four Corners. What's the status on that? It's page 15 through 17 of one of the info packets.
Right, we have the, you asking what's the status on the package that we submitted? The thing that was submitted in your informational regarding the Four Corners?
Yes, from the president of the garden club.
Yes. Was that included in the packet?
Yes.
Okay, what's your question on that?
It looks like that's a request from the garden club. Am I reading that correctly?
No, remember the garden club the garden club came and expressed the concern about the destruction of the pipes and so forth and so on. And the city council determined that it was an administrative issue, so myself and Ms. Garcia, got together, came up with a policy, and that's the policy that we came up with.
Roger.
On what email did it come in on?
Oh, I have no idea what email.
You should have gotten it on Friday. We sent everything on Friday.
It's agenda 23 info and agenda 23 informational.
And so that was just a follow-up on, to let y'all know that we did take care of that, just the concern.
Probably a separate email then. There's an email on
Give it on Friday.
today.
You got it on Friday?
Late Friday, right?
Late Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Because there was the first one on Friday, and then there was a follow-up.
Yeah, the late one on Friday for that.
Yeah, there you go. It's the end of that one. The very end.
That's customer service right there.
What is our status on technology upgrades? And I was today specifically be referencing the teleconference and overall sound system.
Okay, so technology upgrades basically has been focused on the server and IT. And now we're moving to phase 2. We beautified the community center. We're going to be getting more mics and so forth, and looking at the sound system as a whole to bring back for improvement on the sound and presentations at our city council meetings.
Do we have an expected delivery date for the website?
Yes, we're about 50% on that. We've already had our startup meeting. We're building the pages independently, and the website developer is building, of course, in the back before. So our current page will be active until the new one's ready to launch, but about 50%.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Can I ask about the item 18 on your report? Where are we at with the battery electronic storage people? Because I still am my concern is the location they were proposing, but I just wanted to ask you if you could give us a little more information on that one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely. I did reach out to them and let them know basically the same concern, that their first step is to go to the planning and zoning and present that to the planning and zoning, and the zoning is an issue, whether it's going to be changed or not before this project goes forward. So I asked them what their intentions were, and they said they are about 30% into the project as far as development, and that they were coming to the planning and zoning commission now that they have the initial answers about what type of products they're going to be using and so forth and so on. So to answer your question, we should have a planning and zoning meeting within the next probably 2 weeks or so regarding that, 2 to 3 weeks, and then be moving forward from there. So,
That's just what I don't want to, and I understand the planning and zoning. I certainly respect that board. That's their job. I guess my concern is allowing for growth in commercial around that area, multifamily housing, and I worry that facility is going to wind up, if they put it there, it's going to wind up getting surrounded at some point. And the best, it always goes back to, what is it called, the best use of land. And I'm not sure that's the best use of land there. I don't know. I mean, that's the question I still have about that project, which I think you understand that.
I did emphasize the importance of them, before you get too involved into this project, as far as development and so forth, the first step, once again, is go before the city, and there has to be a zone change before anything can happen, so,
Yeah.
and there's no guarantee of that, of course.
What kind of performance metrics do we have outside the reports for the police department? I think I got 10 speeding tickets last month. I'm not saying we haven't seen improved performance as far as I see slightly less speeders and folks driving crazy. But are we to monitor mileage driven, or I don't know? You're the cop background there, so how do we measure performance there? And are they just maxed out and they really can't do anymore, or are we taking steps to improve?
We're taking steps to improve. We did have 2 days short of a couple months, on this month. However, the tickets, the performance has been down. We have had some people, cops, personnel, say, can some went to training. However, the emphasis is still, and I've already spoken to the leadership, I saw the numbers as well, that they had trending in the wrong direction. So the emphasis will continue to be enforcement, and not only education as far as the warnings, but if you're gonna stop somebody, write the ticket, you know what I'm saying? So, can't direct them to do that, but I can direct them to do your job, and if you're doing your job and setting and enforcing the law, you will be right, making traffic stops and writing tickets.
Follow-on question with the police department, and context with the high-speed motorcycle coming through between AAA and Tractor Supply there on 132. What is our policy? How do we go about that? Because what I'm witnessing is, okay, there's a cop inside Tractor Supply, I hear them coming, goes outside, I see Devine PD pulling the AAA parking lot there, and they just sit and wait for the motorcycle to pass and then chase them. Could we just not engage at that point? I mean, that just seems like a waste of fuel to me. So what is our policy? How do we improve that? I understand we don't want to be matching a motorcycle for speed at 170 miles per hour. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not following what you're saying. You saw a motorcycle speeding down 173 and one of our police officers didn't engage?
It was a multi-county pursuit. They came out of San Antonio. I think all the different, yeah. It was a few weekends ago. They followed the whole way out of San Antonio and then lost them somewhere over towards Hondo. But what is our policy, or do we need to develop other policy to not pursue them? Because again, I saw Devine PD pulls up, sits in the parking lot of 888 there, waiting for him to go by, and then pulls out and chases them. That just seems counterproductive to me. Either block the road or don't engage.
Right, so generally the policy, if there's a pursuit on 35, we need to block the intersection so they can get off on the 3 intersections that we have. That's the general policy, right? But if they're coming through town, then of course you're going to initiate a pursuit as long as it's safe. Now, if they're doing 170 miles an hour through the road, you need to just terminate the pursuit because that's obviously not safe. If they're doing 170, obviously the cops doing 100 through a residential neighborhood, that's not safe.
They followed them, but they didn't go 170.
Right.
I mean, they kept them in eyesight.
Right, so as long as you can read, as long as you can pursue a reasonable and prudent speed that's safe for you and the community, then until you lose them or another agency engages, you can disengage. Also, we didn't have one officer that is leaving us, and we have one position open, and we have an interview tomorrow. We have been advertising, and we have an interview tomorrow for that one position. So.
The email that you sent to us on AEP, on the price or the cost of the lights, since I was Mr. Mom for the last 4 months, I drove around town during the nighttime, and I know I got some sections that are dark, that don't have no lights at all. Debbie's side is real good, your side is real good. You need some lights in your district, that's dark. Now, do we need to send you an email? Because from what the gentleman said, he had to come out and I guess observe what's there to see what the cost is going to be, because it's going to be a different cost. Do we all need to send emails, or?
You mean a different cost to install new lights or to replace the ones that do?
Install new lights.
Right, yes, there has to be a study done for that. So, yes, what we would do is go out and we identify the areas, dark areas, and then we would submit those and get an estimate on what it would cost with the poles and the lighting at that point.
Okay.
Yes,
So the amount there is just a replacement of the tab.
Right,
just
just
replace
replace
it. That's why I asked him, I said, well, what if there is none, and it needs to be.
Right.
So, that's what I wanted to know.
That's a good point.
I was just gonna ask David, it's like, can you give us a little more detail on what you're, saying here as far as discussing regarding possible developments? Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, so we, as y'all aware, we are a member of Go Medina, which, and the Greater San Antonio Area Economic Development Corporation also sends out different RFPs, RFIs for businesses and corporations that are looking for site locations. And so those are what we respond to quite often. So if they're looking for a site location anywhere from 0 to 75 acres, then, and it might fit our profile, then we put submit an initial package just on the profile of the City of Devine, which includes the 74 acres with the paved and engineering study, with our community development profile and so forth, and see if it's a good fit. And it's just initial stages of that process.
Is that the, what you're talking about? Are you talking about item 5 on your list? That you met with Missy Thompson and partner?
Missy Thompson is a Devine resident, a realtor here in town, and right, so, no, sir, she's looking at developing inside the city in like couple different properties. Maybe a trailer park, or maybe an RV park, and maybe some other different concepts.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You got it. All in favor? Motion passes. All right.
Look at that, 5 to nothing. Imagine that.
All right, good meeting, everybody.